We live in a world obsessed with comfort. Softer beds, faster deliveries, smoother entertainment, instant access to everything. It's marketed as progress, as if the ultimate goal of life is to remove every friction, every obstacle, every ounce of effort. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Comfort, while pleasant in the short term, has a hidden cost. And that cost is your strength, your growth, and ultimately your future. You see, comfort feels good because it quiets the struggle of the moment. It soothes you. It tells your brain, you're safe now, you can relax. And of course, there's nothing inherently wrong with enjoying rest or moments of peace. But the dark side emerges when comfort becomes the default, when it shifts from being a reward to being a requirement, when it replaces growth instead of supporting it. Because here's the paradox. The more you chase comfort, the weaker you become. And the weaker you become, the less prepared you are for the inevitable challenges life will throw your way. Think about it. Our ancestors didn't survive by seeking comfort. They survived by embracing struggle. Every day was a test, finding food, enduring weather, protecting their families. Discomfort wasn't optional, it was life. And that struggle forged resilience, toughness, and adaptability. Contrast that with today. We wake up in climate-controlled homes, tap a screen for food, and complain if Wi-Fi lags by 2 seconds. On the surface, it seems like paradise. But beneath that paradise is a problem. Life still contains storms, but people are no longer trained to face them. When a setback comes, when a relationship ends, when a career collapses, when health fails, people crumble. Not because the storm is stronger than in the past, but because the person is weaker. Comfort has softened them, dulled their edge, and stolen the very traits that create real security. The dark side of comfort is that it quietly robs you of progress while making you feel safe. It's like sinking into quicksand disguised as a bed. You don't notice you're stuck until it's too late. A simple example: exercise. Your body was designed to move, to lift, to stretch, to endure. When you choose the comfort of the couch over the discomfort of training, what happens? Muscles shrink, energy drops, health deteriorates. Another example: mental growth. Reading a challenging book, learning a new skill, engaging in deep thought, these activities stretch your brain. But they're uncomfortable compared to scrolling social media or binge-watching shows. So what do most people choose? Comfort. And slowly their focus shrinks, their creativity dies, their ability to think critically fades. The same applies to emotions. Facing difficult conversations, setting boundaries, saying no when it's easier to say yes, these are uncomfortable. So people avoid them, choosing temporary peace over lasting respect. And in doing so, they end up trapped in relationships and situations that drain them. Comfort feels like a relief in the moment, but in reality, it becomes a prison. Here's the part nobody warns you about. Comfort doesn't stay neutral, it compounds. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're making a trade. You're trading strength for weakness, long-term fulfillment for short-term relief. And the trade never benefits you. The more often you repeat it, the more fragile you become. It's like training yourself to fail. Think of it this way: discomfort is a gym for the soul. Every rep makes you stronger. Every challenge sharpens you. Every obstacle builds character. And just like with muscles, if you stop training, you atrophy. You don't just stay the same, you get weaker. Comfort is that slow atrophy of the spirit. And because it happens quietly, most people don't see it happening until they're too far gone. Why do so many fall into this trap? Because comfort is seductive. It whispers lies. It tells you, you deserve this. You've worked hard enough, take it easy. It masks itself as self-care, but often it's just self-sabotage. True self-care sometimes means doing what's hard because it serves you in the long run. Comfort doesn't care about your future. Comfort only cares about now. And if you let it, it will sacrifice your tomorrow for your today. That's why so many people wake up years later wondering why they're unfulfilled, out of shape, stuck in mediocrity, or resentful of life. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't unfairness. It was comfort slowly draining their potential while convincing them everything was fine. But let me paint the contrast, because this is where things get powerful. Imagine two paths. On one path, you choose comfort daily. You avoid the gym, you avoid risks, you avoid hard conversations, you avoid new challenges, you live safe, predictable, easy. Fast forward 10 years. You are weaker, more anxious, more fragile. Life feels harder, not easier, because you're less equipped to deal with it. On the other path, you choose discomfort daily. You push your body. You stretch your mind. You take risks, even small ones. You face your fears instead of running. It's harder in the moment, but fast forward 10 years and you are sharper, stronger, more confident, more capable. The storms of life still come, but you face them with courage. The difference between these two futures is not luck or destiny. It's simply how each person handled comfort. And here's the reality. One of these paths feels good now but destroys you later. The other feels hard now but builds you into someone unstoppable. That's the dark side of comfort. It sells you a short-term illusion while stealing your long-term power. And let's not forget, the world itself doesn't care about your comfort. Challenges will arrive whether you're prepared or not. So the question becomes, will you be the kind of person who breaks at the first sign of struggle, or the kind who is trained to thrive in it? The answer lies in how you relate to comfort today. If you build your life around avoiding difficulty, difficulty will break you. If you build your life around facing it, you'll rise above it. It's really that simple. Comfort is not the enemy, dependence on comfort is. There's nothing wrong with enjoying rest, but when comfort becomes your master, it enslaves you. When you master it, when you use comfort as a tool and not a crutch, that's when you unlock real freedom. So ask yourself right now, in your daily life, where are you letting comfort quietly weaken you? Is it in your health, your career, your relationships, your discipline? Because until you face it honestly, comfort will keep winning and you'll keep losing. The world won't warn you about this because the world profits when you stay weak and dependent. But now you see it. Now you know the truth. Comfort can either be your ally or your downfall, and the choice is yours. One of the strangest things about comfort is how it disguises itself as progress. People believe they're advancing because life feels easier. But easier does not always mean better. In fact, the history of every civilization reveals the same pattern. Comfort grows, discipline fades, strength declines, and collapse follows. Look at the Roman Empire. At its peak, it was forged in hardship, discipline, and military rigor. But as wealth and luxury spread, people became obsessed with entertainment, food, and indulgence. Citizens wanted bread and circuses, not responsibility, not sacrifice, not hard work. And when the challenges of war and political turmoil came, the empire that once seemed unstoppable crumbled from within. Comfort was not the only factor, but it was the silent poison that weakened the spirit of a people. And the same pattern repeats in individuals. Comfort feels like advancement, but if you don't pair it with discipline, it leads to decay. Think about your own life. Technology, convenience, and abundance have eliminated most of the struggles humans faced for centuries. But have they made people happier? Studies show depression, anxiety, and dissatisfaction are higher than ever. Why? Because humans were not designed to live without challenge. We need resistance the same way muscles need weight to grow. Without it, we lose meaning. This is the paradox of comfort. It promises happiness but often delivers emptiness. When you remove struggle, you also remove the sense of achievement that comes from overcoming it. And that sense of achievement is what makes life worth living. If every day is easy, every day is also forgettable. It's the hard days, the struggles, the victories that give your story weight. This is why people who seem to have it all often feel restless or unfulfilled. They thought success meant reaching a place of comfort where nothing was difficult anymore. But once they arrived, they found that comfort alone is hollow. You see it in celebrities, athletes, and entrepreneurs who achieve massive success, but then spiral into destructive habits. They chased comfort and ended up miserable. Because deep down, what makes us feel alive is not comfort, it's growth. And growth is impossible without discomfort. So, the real tragedy of comfort is not just that it makes you weaker, but that it steals your sense of purpose. You may not even notice it until one day you wake up and realize you're coasting through life, not really living it. But here, another hidden danger: comfort narrows your world. When you constantly choose what feels easy, you avoid the unknown. You stay in the familiar, the predictable, the safe. And while that feels secure, it actually shrinks your potential. Imagine a person who never leaves their hometown because traveling feels uncomfortable, or someone who never speaks up at work because confrontation feels scary, or someone who never tries to start a business because failure feels risky. On the surface, they're avoiding discomfort, but in reality, they're also avoiding growth, opportunities, and experiences that could have transformed their life. Comfort doesn't just keep you safe, it cages you. And the longer you stay inside, the harder it is to escape. Your world gets smaller, your confidence gets weaker, and eventually you stop believing you're capable of more. And let's be honest, this is exactly what society wants. Comfort is profitable. Companies spend billions making things easier so you'll depend on them more. Food companies engineer products for instant pleasure with minimal effort, even if they destroy your health. Entertainment platforms design algorithms to keep you scrolling, never challenged, never bored enough to grow. Marketing tells you, don't struggle, don't sweat, don't sacrifice. We'll make it simple, fast, and painless. It's seductive because it aligns with your natural desire to avoid pain. But what they don't tell you is that every time you give in to that pitch, you trade your strength for dependence. And dependence makes you easy to control. A society addicted to comfort is a society that no longer questions, no longer fights back, no longer strives for greatness. It's a society that settles. Contrast this with people who deliberately embrace discomfort. They stand out because they refuse the easy path. Think of great leaders, thinkers, and innovators. They didn't achieve greatness by avoiding discomfort. They sought it out. They trained when others slept. They took risks when others played safe. They endured criticism, failure, and setbacks that most people would run from. And because of that, they became unstoppable. The irony is that by choosing discomfort, they earned a life of deeper comfort in the long run, the comfort of freedom, strength, and self-respect. That's the key difference. Weak comfort gives you pleasure today but pain tomorrow. Strong discomfort gives you pain today but power tomorrow. One enslaves you, the other liberates you. But let's get practical. How does this play out in your daily choices? Picture two people after a long day. One sits down, opens a bag of chips, and binge-watches shows until midnight. The other goes to the gym, eats a healthy meal, and spends an hour working on a skill. Who feels better in the moment? The first one. Who feels better in the long run? The second. Now picture two people at work. One avoids speaking up in meetings because it's uncomfortable. The other pushes through fear, shares ideas, and learns to lead. Who feels safer in the moment? The first one. Who grows in influence over time? The second. Or take relationships. One avoids hard conversations, staying quiet to keep the peace. The other addresses issues directly, risking tension but building stronger trust. Who feels less stress today? The first. Who builds healthier connections over time? The second. This is the hidden math of life. Comfort pays you now and bankrupts you later. Discomfort charges you now and rewards you later. So here's the harsh reality. If you want to be strong, fulfilled, and truly free, you have to stop worshiping comfort. You have to rewire your brain to see discomfort not as an enemy but as a teacher. Every moment of discomfort is a signal that growth is available. Every challenge is a chance to sharpen your edge. Every difficult choice is an opportunity to build character. And yes, it's painful, but it's the kind of pain that transforms you. The only way to escape the dark side of comfort is to step deliberately into discomfort, again and again, until it becomes your new normal. Now let me give you a contrast that may shift your perspective forever. Imagine your future self 20 years from now. One version of you has lived for comfort. You stayed safe, avoided risks, took the easy way. On the outside, maybe you're fine, but on the inside, you know you wasted potential. You're fragile, bitter, resentful of the life you didn't live. The other version of you chose discomfort. You faced fears, endured challenges, pushed through resistance. On the outside, maybe you carry scars, but on the inside, you are unshakable. You carry pride, wisdom, and the deep peace that comes from knowing you lived fully. Which version do you want to be? Because the answer is determined not 20 years from now, but in the choices you make today. And every choice between comfort and discomfort is a vote for the kind of future you will live. Let's dig deeper into why comfort is so destructive, because on the surface it seems harmless. After all, what's wrong with taking it easy once in a while? Nothing, if it's occasional and intentional. The problem arises when comfort stops being a choice and starts being a lifestyle. At that point, it doesn't just influence your habits, it reshapes your identity. You stop thinking of yourself as someone capable of enduring discomfort, and you start labeling yourself as fragile. Words like "I can't handle stress," "that's too much effort," or "I'm not that kind of person" creep into your vocabulary. And once your identity shifts, your behavior follows. You become the person who avoids the gym, avoids risk, avoids growth, not because you physically can't, but because you've convinced yourself you're not built for it. Comfort doesn't just steal your strength, it steals your self-belief. Now here, where the trap becomes even more dangerous. The human brain adapts quickly to whatever environment it's in. If you train it to expect comfort, even small discomfort feels unbearable. That's why people complain about traffic, slow internet, or standing in line, things that wouldn't even register as problems for past generations. Their tolerance for discomfort has eroded. And when tolerance is low, life feels harder, even though objectively it's easier. This creates a vicious cycle. The more you rely on comfort, the more discomfort hurts, and the more you avoid it, the weaker you become. You end up trapped in a shrinking circle of what feels manageable. Your world gets smaller, your options get fewer, and your resilience fades. But let's contrast that with someone who trains their brain differently. Someone who embraces small doses of discomfort daily. Cold showers, tough workouts, difficult conversations, new challenges. To most people, those things feel unbearable, but to the person who embraces them, they're normal. Their tolerance expands. They don't crumble under pressure, they adapt. They don't fear difficulty, they lean into it. And over time, that builds an identity of strength. They see themselves as capable, resilient, unstoppable. That's the hidden gift of discomfort. It doesn't just build your body, it builds your mind. It convinces you that you are more powerful than you think. And once you believe that, life changes. Let's pause and address something important. Comfort isn't evil. It has a role. Rest matters, recovery matters, enjoyment matters. The issue is when comfort becomes the default instead of the reward. Comfort should follow effort, not replace it. Think of a great meal after a hard workout or a restful weekend after a demanding week of work. In that context, comfort enhances life. But without the effort first, comfort loses its meaning. It's like eating dessert without ever having a main course, sweet at first, but ultimately unsatisfying. The harsh lesson is this: comfort has no value without discomfort. They exist in contrast. And when you skip discomfort, you rob comfort of its joy. That's why so many people feel empty even when their lives are full of ease. They're missing the struggle that makes comfort worth it. Consider this in the realm of personal goals. Everyone wants success, whether that's financial freedom, strong health, deep relationships, or creative achievement. But the path to success always runs through discomfort. You cannot build wealth without discipline, which is uncomfortable. You cannot build health without training, which is uncomfortable. You cannot build relationships without vulnerability, which is uncomfortable. You cannot master a skill without failing repeatedly, which is uncomfortable. Yet most people still believe they can find a shortcut, a way to have the reward without the struggle. That's the promise comfort sells, and it's a lie. Because every shortcut is a detour to weakness. The people who succeed in any area are not the ones who found a way around discomfort, but the ones who walked straight through it, again and again. And here's another piece of the dark side. Comfort makes you forget time is passing. When you're busy struggling toward a goal, you feel every moment. You're alive, engaged, present. But when you sink into comfort, hours slip by unnoticed. One show becomes a season. One scroll becomes an evening. One skipped workout becomes a month. And then one day, you look back and wonder where the years went. Comfort didn't just waste your time, it stole your life in pieces so small you barely noticed. That's why so many people wake up in middle age full of regret. They didn't choose failure outright. They just chose comfort over discomfort again and again until their potential slipped away. And regret is always heavier than discomfort. Now let's look at relationships through this lens because the same pattern shows up there. Choosing comfort often means avoiding the truth, not saying what needs to be said, not addressing problems, not holding boundaries. It feels easier in the moment, but it leads to resentment, distance, and even collapse. On the other hand, choosing discomfort, being honest, being vulnerable, having hard conversations feels risky, but it builds trust and depth. Strong relationships, like strong bodies and strong careers, are built on discomfort. Comfort creates surface-level connections. Discomfort creates bonds that last. This is the hidden truth most people miss. Every area of life you care about will either be strengthened by discomfort or weakened by comfort. There's no neutral ground. And here's the kicker: the choice isn't when you make once. It's when you make daily, moment by moment. Every morning when you wake up, you have the choice. Do I hit snooze or do I rise? Every workout, do I push harder or stop early? Every conversation, do I speak the truth or stay silent? Every opportunity, do I step forward or step back? These are the battles where your future is won or lost. And while each one seems small, they add up. They shape who you are becoming. You don't suddenly wake up strong or weak. You drift there one choice at a time. Comfort nudges you one way. Discomfort nudges you the other. And the direction you lean most often determines where you end up. The truth is, discomfort is unavoidable. Life will bring it whether you choose it or not. Illness, loss, failure, rejection, they're coming. You can't prevent them. But here's the difference. If you've trained yourself to embrace discomfort, you'll meet those storms with courage. If you've trained yourself to avoid it, those storms will destroy you. That's why avoiding discomfort doesn't actually make life easier. It makes life harder in the long run. Choosing discomfort, on the other hand, makes life harder now but easier later. That's the paradox. And once you understand it, you can flip the script. Instead of running from discomfort, you can run toward it, knowing it's building a version of you that nothing can break. So ask yourself, where in your life are you choosing comfort when you should be choosing discomfort? What goals are you delaying? What conversations are you avoiding? What habits are you excusing? Because those are the places where comfort is stealing your future. And here's the good news: you don't need to transform overnight. You just need to start with one choice today. One moment where you lean into discomfort instead of backing away. One decision to step forward instead of step back. That single act, repeated often, will begin to reshape your identity. And once you see yourself as someone who can face discomfort, the dark side of comfort loses its power over you. You become free. Comfort is not always the soft pillow it pretends to be. Sometimes, it is a slow suffocation disguised as safety. Think about the last time you stayed in a situation longer than you should have. Maybe it was a job you had outgrown, a relationship that no longer nurtured you, or a routine that drained your energy but felt easier than change. That hesitation, that pause, that quiet whisper convincing you to stay a little longer was comfort holding you back. And while it doesn't feel like a cage in the moment, comfort has a way of keeping you locked in invisible chains. It doesn't yell, it doesn't force, it simply lulls you into believing there's no better alternative. But the cost is staggering: your growth, your potential, and the life you could have lived. The danger of comfort lies in how reasonable it feels. It never announces itself as an enemy. Instead, it shows up as routine, predictability, and control. You wake up, follow the same patterns, do the same things, and gradually convince yourself this is normal. But deep down, there's a quiet voice inside you that wonders if this is all there is. That's the voice of your potential, calling out from beneath the weight of habit. And ignoring it doesn't silence it. It just buries it deeper, where it festers into regret. The irony is that comfort feels good in the moment but hurts in the long term, while discomfort feels painful in the moment but builds strength, resilience, and wisdom for the future. Most people never realize this trade-off until it's too late. Think about athletes who train their bodies past exhaustion, musicians who practice scales until their fingers ache, entrepreneurs who risk failure again and again. What separates them from the majority isn't talent, it's their relationship with discomfort. They don't see it as something to avoid, but as something to embrace. Discomfort becomes their teacher, shaping them into who they want to become. Meanwhile, those who cling to comfort never leave the shallow end. They might feel safe, but they never experience the deep waters of possibility. And here's the haunting truth. The safest place is often the most dangerous because nothing grows there. Comfort zones are graveyards of ambition. You've probably met people who live in that graveyard. Maybe it's the friend who always talks about what they could have done if life were different, or the colleague who complains daily but never takes action, or even family members who discourage you from taking risks because it's too dangerous. Their warnings don't come from wisdom, they come from fear. Fear dressed up as caution. Fear that they've accepted comfort as their ceiling and they want you to stay in the same cage. Because when you break free, it forces them to face the reality of their own choices. That's why pursuing growth often feels lonely, because breaking out of your comfort zone makes others uncomfortable too. The dark side of comfort also reveals itself in small, seemingly harmless habits. Binge-watching shows instead of learning something new. Choosing fast food because cooking takes effort. Scrolling endlessly through social media rather than working on that skill you've always wanted to develop. None of these choices are catastrophic on their own, but over time they form chains that weigh you down. One skipped workout becomes a month of inactivity. One delayed dream becomes a lifetime of what-ifs. It's never one choice that ruins us. It's the accumulation of small comforts that quietly rob us of the life we could have lived. And the scariest part, you rarely notice the damage until years have passed. Now let's flip the perspective. Imagine for a moment the person you could become if you deliberately sought discomfort instead of avoiding it. If every day you chose the path that challenged you, stretched you, and forced you to grow. Imagine the mental toughness you build, the skills you acquire, the opportunities you'd create. This is not about glorifying suffering. It's about understanding that true fulfillment is on the other side of discomfort. Growth is uncomfortable because it requires shedding old layers of yourself, breaking old patterns, and stepping into the unknown. But the reward is becoming the kind of person who doesn't just survive life but masters it. And here, where most people misunderstand the concept, discomfort isn't always dramatic. It doesn't always mean quitting your job tomorrow or moving to another country. Sometimes it's as simple as saying no when you'd usually say yes, speaking up when you'd rather stay quiet, or trying something new even when you're afraid of looking foolish. Each small act of discomfort builds the muscle of resilience. And like any muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets. Eventually, what once terrified you becomes normal and your comfort zone expands. This is how people transform, not in one giant leap, but in a series of uncomfortable steps. But there's a catch. Comfort will fight back. The moment you try to break free, you'll feel resistance. Your mind will invent excuses. I don't have time. I'll start tomorrow. I'm not ready yet. These are the lies comfort whispers to keep you trapped. Recognizing these lies is half the battle. Once you see them for what they are, illusions designed to protect you from growth, you can make a different choice. And every time you make that choice, you weaken comfort's grip on your life. You prove to yourself that fear doesn't have the final word. And that's when the shift happens. You stop being controlled by comfort and start controlling it. The truth is, life is short, too short to waste in the prison of ease. Every day you choose comfort over growth, you're essentially postponing the life you could be living. You're delaying the person you could become. And one day, you'll wake up and realize that time, the most precious resource you have, has slipped through your fingers. The people who achieve greatness, fulfillment, and inner peace aren't the ones who avoided discomfort. They're the ones who used it as fuel. They understood that the dark side of comfort is not that it makes life easy, but that it makes life meaningless. And there is nothing more painful than reaching the end and realizing you never truly lived. So ask yourself, where in your life have you settled into comfort, mistaking it for peace? What dreams have you silenced because the discomfort of chasing them seemed too high a price? And most importantly, are you willing to pay the far greater price of regret later? Because the choice is not between comfort and discomfort, It's between discomfort today or regret tomorrow, and only you can decide which path to take.